So I think that's pretty neat timing there to hand over to Daniel, our head of product, who's going to talk to you about Lean Library Features.
So much, Matt. Take over control. Thank you so much for the introduction for the product, and I think it's a great time as well to just outline again and refer back to our values and the mission of Lean Library Features. Basically, with this new service, we're taking a step back, and what we wanted to see is how, in what other ways, we are able to support libraries to deliver their very much valuable content and support. And generally speaking, our value proposition with this new product is what you can see on the screen currently: is streamlining access, enhancing discoverability, and growing usage, increasing visibility and impact of the library into the workflow of your patrons. With Lean Library Features, we're basically trying building a product that is essentially a software on your patron's desktop that takes away from the very much content-centric and campus-dependent linear systems that libraries tended to have followed, and we're working on a product that takes all the support and all the content and all services into the workflow of the patrons wherever and whenever they might be. And we're working all of these services and features in very much popular locations that your patrons do their research fairly often. So talking of Google Scholar, Springer Nature, or PubMed, Scopus, and many more actually. When defining Lean Library Features, we started with basically identifying the main pillars of your library services. And what we did with Library Access, our core product, we basically streamlined access to your users and helped them, most importantly, when they were off campus, but also with other features when they were on campus. Now we have identified a few other pillars that we deliberately focused when designing Lean Library features with our new integrations, namely supporting your patrons, discoverability, supporting content, and feedback and curation. So what you're going to be seeing in just a few slides is how and with what kind of integrations and what kind of new product features we are aiming to help your library on these pillars. Our library partners, we currently have 150 library partners with an active monthly user count of over 200,000 by now. Which translates to an average of 25% of user rate. Now this is calculated over the full FTE, and what you see is just a few partners of ours, and what you will see is that we have quite a variety of libraries and higher education institutions, but also some corporates as well. We have smaller institutions, bigger institutions that we work together with. And we've been growing usage quite dramatically over the past few years. I mean, funnily enough, I just saw the stats, and when I started at Lean Library 3 years ago, I think our user base was 10,000 users, and now 3 years later we are at 204,000 users. And what you also see is how it compares to the number of library partners on the Epsilon axis. Lean Library Features have been developed, taken into consideration, and actually working very closely together with a selected number of partners that were forward-thinking enough to believe us that with this new service, they are going to be able to enhance their discoverability and, yeah, just generally speaking, support all of the library pillars that we have named previously. Such universities as Wageningen University from the Netherlands, Cardiff University, Harvard University, University of East Anglia, Bellevue, and
a tricky one to pronounce.
And a tricky one to pronounce, especially if you're not a native.
Georgetown Medical is my shorthand. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you. We prepared a video for you, and through this video, we've created typical user journeys with which we think we are able to show you what Lean Library Access and Lean Library Features does. And I'm sure that many of you are aware and know the core product Lean Library Access, but we're definitely going to start and show you a few examples just for those of you who are not familiar, but remember Lean Library Futures includes and Lean Library Access and all the Lean Library Futures features. So essentially, all these user journey related cases and examples that you're going to see in this short video are all included in Lean Library Futures. Now, the first example is a integration with Google Scholar. And this is a configuration that can be done. Apologies for the quick video. This is an integration that essentially configures your end user's Google Scholar and sets their institutional ID into the URL, and therefore letting Google Scholar know to which institution that patron belongs to. Now, in return, we are able to populate the hyperlinks to licensed academic resources on the Google Scholar research page. And through that, your patrons are going to be able to get to the discovery layer of your institution. In this case, all of our cases are tailor-made around Cardiff University's cases. And so here the user gets to the discovery layer from where the PDF can be obtained in just a few clicks. The next example is something, apologies. The next example is the so-called domain level authentication that we are able to do. Essentially, the extension monitors the visited URLs, and we are going to catch up in just a moment. Here we are. The extension monitors the visited URLs, and whenever there is an academic site that the patron visits, we are able to authenticate for licensed academic resources. And we do this via your institutional authentication system. So we do support Easy Proxy and OpenEthans and Shibboleth. In this case, the user just got access through authenticating themselves through the institutional proxy. We do this via integrations with your authentication system. So that's why the extension is able to define whether or not there are some academic resources available on the visited website, such as JSTOR, for example. Now, this new other example goes to an ebook on Amazon. And what we are going to do in these cases is whenever there is a licensed version of this specific ebook through your institutional licenses, we're able to direct your users to the full text location, and therefore saving quite a bit of money from your patrons who otherwise might not have known that this specific ebook would have been available. We do these kinds of alternative cases. Apologies for the control is a little bit tricky for this video right now.
While Dan is doing it, I say the reason why we showcase this as a video is because we found that with Zoom, it really slows down the experience that you would ordinarily get with the browser extension. And so this is the most efficient way we can show you everything that the product can do.
So in this case, we just showcased that not only ebooks are supported with alternatives related features, but also we are able to surface open access repositories such as on Paywall and Core. And so in this case, the user gets access through an open access repository when the institution itself doesn't have a license for a specific academic paper. And we are proud to this feature, which is something that that is extremely useful in cases when some of your resources are not authenticatable through your institutional authentication system. We see many cases that New York Times is one of those that seems to be authenticated, that seems to be licensed on an institutional level, but authentication just doesn't go through Easy Proxy. So in this case, we are able to provide a feature that's called SS Messages, with which you are able to provide custom messages to your patrons onto very specific locations. So in this case, you're able to let your patrons know that actually they could obtain a user to New York Times, and they need to get, so sorry. Yes, okay. The next feature is the so-called it's one of the newest, one of the integrations that we have worked with Cite actually, and we're able to use their very clever badges through citation indexes can be provided to academic resources, and by clicking on the badge, the patron then is able to get to Cite's website where the specific parts of the academic paper can be seen. That shows how other academic papers view that specific paper that you have just seen, and basically
I give you a break if you like at some point.
It's just very maybe you can control it better actually.
Yeah, of course.
Can you have it?
Well, it's very fiddly, isn't it? Yeah, get very used to it. So yes, as Dan was mentioning, this is our Cite integration, which we're really proud of, and that Josh, the founder and CEO of Cite, is going to be talking about later. Another example that we're going to show you here is a new feature we launched towards the end of last year, which is journal table of content alert subscriptions. So whilst preserving the anonymity and privacy that we're well known for, we are able to provide your users with this ability to subscribe to journal alerts, all very quickly, immediately via Google Scholar.
And this is the part where the new features come in place. Everything that Lean Library Future includes will be showcased here. And the first feature is a feature with which you are able to surface other academic manuals. For example, a manual to Google Scholar into the workflow of your patrons, into selected workflow parts of your patrons' workflow. And I will just stop here a little bit. And because what you have seen so far with Lean Library Access, you've seen pop-ups on the right top corner. We're moving away from that visibility with Lean Library Features, and basically we provide this expandable sidebar extension, what we call the workflow librarian. In this workflow librarian, all relevant features are available that are relevant on that location. So always only features will be available to your patrons, whatever has been enabled on that specific location, and you as a library or librarian, you have complete and total control over this. In the first example, the patron looked for something on Google Scholar, and we're able to surface the institution's, Cardiff University's manual about Google Scholar. So I hope this is quite straightforward what's the actual value in this, because this is the first time, and this is the most relevant location where these manuals might be very much valuable for your patrons. And whilst you have worked tremendous amount of time and you spent resources on creation of these documentations and videos, some of your patrons might have the same difficulty of knowing where they might be located, just as much as with other academic resources. Another integration that we have worked this year is the so-called discovery integration. Now, what we do here is that we are taking the search query of what the patron has used for Google Scholar, and we do send the same query to your institutional discovery layer, which is in this case Ex Libris Primo. And then the responses from the discovery layer is presented to your patrons, provides visibility and usage as well, as when the patron then clicks any of your academic resources, you are able to redirect them back to the content page of the discovery. The next few examples are going to be the content integrations, and the first one is a video on YouTube. As mentioned, all of these features are available at any location, at any website. And so in this case, the user has looked for social theory, and with our integration with Sage Video, we're able to surface a relevant and same topic video, social theory. And we do this via our iframing technology, where videos from your other suppliers can be iframed at any location. So this is similar to what you just saw with the Google Scholar integration, Google Scholar documentation, but it is with actual content. Now, the next content that we'd like to show you is a video from Jove videos. And here the user has looked for Gold's nanoparticle synthesis, and we are able to surface a video from Joe that's about the same topic at this part. And it's important to highlight that whilst visualization of this and placement of this specific feature might change in the close future, but we are also able to provide a way to redirect the user back to the content page. In this case, it would be Joe's website, or in the previous example, it would be Sage videos. By clicking the hyperlink on the top, click to the content page. Yet another content integration related feature, which does a very similar thing, but then presents it in a slightly different way. Now, as opposed to surfacing a video, we are able to surface, and I would say it's mostly, the best use case for this would be to surface a taxonomy related kind of package or content from some of your providers. In this case, this is also a Sage content integration, and it runs on Sage Research Methods taxonomy. We are able to scrape your page that the patron is viewing at the moment, and we match and surface available taxonomies from Sage Research Methods. So in this case, ethnography is a matching word. And for that word, we are able to surface the short definition that might help your users learning about the specific phrase a little bit. And I'm sure that many patrons would be really helpful, especially with law or medicine related integrations like this. And then when the patron then clicks read more, the patron is being redirected back to the content page of Sage Research Methods. Again, by doing so, driving usage on your licensed material. And we wanted to show you another very similar case, of course, but just to demonstrate that these features are very much content neutral. So we are able to support these features with any of your taxonomy or any of your content, might it be videos or academic manuals. In this case, we are using a Statista taxonomy or a database actually, and we do the same thing. We are able to surface a short definition, and then for more information, users can be redirected back to Statista's page. The next feature that you are going to be able to see is the so-called Net Promoter Score integration, with which you are able to evaluate a selected number of providers or websites or software websites at the same time. And with that, and by doing that, so you're going to be able to evaluate how they compare in the eyes of your patrons over time. And so you're able to set up, you're actually able to configure all your questions, and you can define the same questions to be used for all of those evaluations. When it comes to comparison, and you're going to be then able to, for example, identify if there is a big drop of quality or a big drop of perceived quality in your patron's eyes or to a specific content provider. You're able to then look into that, what might have happened. But again, as you are able to completely customize your questions, you might be finding just a different parameter to be looking for. And lastly, actually not lastly, there is one more after this. This is the chatbot integration that we are currently working on. The chatbot integration is just another means how your patrons can reach out to and get in touch with your librarians at basically any part of their workflow, wherever this feature has been enabled. We are currently finalizing and wrapping this feature up and should be published very soon. We do support two different kinds of chatbots, specifically a SpringShare product called LibChat, and or any of your custom developed solutions for chatbots. In this case, in Cardiff's case, we just need to add the name, and then chat can start already. And finally, this is the last feature that is scheduled to be developed in the last quarter of this year. This is a badge that we're currently developing that we'd like to use, in which we'd like to combine a number of different information, such as information from sites or predatory journal APIs. It is still under discussion, and we are working on this feature, but we just wanted to show you as an appetizer for what's coming later this year. We've seen the power of the extension and how much usage it was able to and how much it was able to enhance usage and simplify access to your patrons with Lean Library Access. This specific case study is from NHS Mersey Care that conducted this case study right after they joined Lean Library, and what you are able to see is how much of an increase of usage they experienced after implementing Lean Library on a number of their resources. And well, it's pretty early days for most of the Lean Library features and to showcase what exact results it might be able to provide to you. But we actually have a case study that we run with Utah State University earlier this year that shows you usage for a specific LibGuide about Google Scholar that was presented on Google Scholar as well, with a 100-day period from January to April, and 2 years are compared on this graph. And it is clearly visible that with Lean Library Futures integration, the usage has been drastically increasing ever since. This is just a preliminary number out of the paper, the survey that we have been running, and this is calculated over 4,000 responses. We asked the question to both librarians and patrons whether or not they would be willing to download an extension if it helped their research. And what we see is that 85% of the librarians definitely would or probably would download an extension, and 90% of the patrons definitely would or probably would download an extension if it helps their research in a meaningful way. So therefore, we are fairly confident that with Lean Library Futures, we're going to be able to help with your usage and resources.
Just before we go into the roadmap, Daniel, Fiona kindly points out a question of how many of the integrations that we've just showcased are already live.
So I think it's a great way to show it on the roadmap, because basically whatever is aligned into September, that's almost everything is live. So we just released the content integration, the 2FA feature for Lean Library Access, and the Primo extension a few weeks back. And so we have everything from Lean Library Futures up to September, essentially. The chatbot integration is going to be released next week. So the last new feature for Lean Library Futures is going to be the Library Insights badge that we showed you. That's going to come later this year. And until then, what we're going to be working on is expanding the providers, suppliers, and available integrations for these features that we just showed you. So, for example, for the discovery integration, we have released support for Primo and EBSCO EDS, but we are currently working on the TDNet integration and the OCLC WordCat integration. And later, we are also going to add the Sun discovery integration to that as well. And by doing that, so providing support for all mainstream and very popular discovery provider systems. We're working on Lean Library Futures dashboard update, which is going to make it a bit more intuitive and visually similar to the currently available Lean Library Access dashboard. And one of the very exciting new feature that's going to come later this year is the reference manager integrations. And we're planning on integrating with Mendeley, EndNotes, and RefWorks and Zotero, essentially providing another tool to your patrons, another use case for your features, to your patrons that we believe is going to be very helpful and valuable for them. We have been working on a number of different products that will help you for marketing and that helps with your user uptake. Point of needs messaging is something like that as well. Essentially, we want to provide you with a tool with which you're going to be able to inject Lean library banners or information into your selected library systems, such as your authentication page or your discovery. We're going to be working on accessibility improvements later at the end of this year as well. But really the plan until for the next few months is to make the available features that we've been showcasing to you in the previous video to be very much robust, to be able to support as many different providers as just possible. And at the same time, we're working with many content suppliers as well for an enhanced user experience and to be able to provide their content through an API-based solution, which will have a configuration drastically.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Well, maybe we should just pause for a second. I know that we need to move on to our next session, but just in case there are any additional questions on Lean Library features that we've not captured, and I think I'm just checking there. So there was a question about what is the extension called, and that's actually a nice opportunity for us to explain our thinking behind the extension itself. And our thinking there is that the extension, we've recently relabeled it just simply Lean Library, because the same extension will deliver all of these different products, so that if at any point in time you upgrade or downgrade, your users don't need to change the browser extension they're using. Their levels of access to our different capabilities will just change. And there's been another little question come in. How do we implement the integrations? So we're going to be talking in more detail about this later on today when we explain to publishers and service providers how we can integrate. But there are really two key ways. One way we call unilateral integration, and that's basically where we give you as a librarian a very easy to use dashboard that you can plug in keywords and content types, so that anytime those keywords are referenced in the user's workflow, we will deliver the associated content and publisher that you stipulate. And we can do that with any publisher just simply out of the box with that functionality. It uses the iframe technology we showed at the outset. But our preferred means of integration is a bilateral integration where we, Lean Library, go to the publisher or the service provider and optimize the integration to make it as best as it can be in terms of user experience, and also so that we can then come back to you as librarians and say that you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is turn it on and that's it. And that's what we've achieved with those service providers you've seen so far, like Ex Libris and Site and SpringShare and others. And it's what we're working on at the moment with all those publishers. And you saw some early examples with Statista and with Sage, and we're also working with Trip and many others as well. And in fact, we have a bit of a target list of publishers and databases, but we're always eager to hear others that you would like to see integrated. So far, all of the requests for those integrations have come from our libraries, and it's really important to us that we basically just serve what you need. So please, if you have specific publishers or services you'd like integrated, please do mention them to us. And we should probably move on now. Final thing, very conscious of time, but I just wanted to say with the roadmap that we've shown you to the end of the year, but we also have really ambitious plans for 2022, which we'll probably be able to talk about to the community later this year. And hopefully you've seen this year what we can achieve in terms of pace. Next year, our focus is going to be on those two twin goals of one, making sure we bring as much of the library into the workflow as possible. So more integrations, more capabilities there. And two, making sure we drive the usage of the browser extension. Hence those marketing tools that we're giving to libraries, but also we're going to focus on unique features that we think will really attract library users to the browser extension and help you get the most out of Lean Library.